Sato was a poor pervert loser who couldn't win a fight to save his life and always seemed to fall into outrageous circumstances. But one day, after his bummy broke ass got beat over half-price bento, his hunger couldn't take anymore, so he seeks out the advice from the legendary wolf named the Ice Witch, and begins his path of becoming a bento brawl fighting machine. His journey, however, isn't without his ass getting beat like a rag doll. One night Sato woke up all bloody and bruised in the middle of a supermarket with no recollection of what happened to him. As he walked around the store, he noticed a girl watching him from the window and wondered who she was. After she walked away, he went to the bento aisle and found it empty, so he checked his wallet to see if he had enough money to get something else. Unfortunately, he was as broke as my ex, so he ended up buying a pack of fish cakes instead. As he walked out of the store, he remembered the girl who had been watching him and wondered what she'd said. Being the half-witted idiot that he was, he deluded himself into thinking she was trying to make a love confession to him. The poor dude thinks he has a chance, causing his virgin brain to overload before he eventually passed out. The following day, he was discharged from the hospital, but he had no recollection of how he'd gotten there in the first place. As he walked to school, he met a girl named Hannah, who seemed to know him, but when he mentioned he didn't remember her, she began to cry. However, she suddenly perked up and acted like everything was fine, so he asked if she could tell him what happened, but she refused. When they got to school, he saw the white-haired girl taking out the trash, and when he remembered who she was, he tried to tell Hannah, but he couldn't find her anywhere. The next moment, the girl approached him and asked him to help her with the trash. As they walked together, he realized she was in her second year because of the color of her uniform, so he referred to her as senpai. When he asked why she'd been staring at him in the supermarket, she told him never to return there. Later on in class, while he was eating his fish cakes, Ume the class rep approached him, but he made a stupid joke about her name being repetitive, calling her Ume squared, prompting him to get squared in the face. She then told him to stay away from Hannah, but Sato made the mistake of asking if she knows what he did with Hannah the previous day at the supermarket. This seemed to make her mad because she immediately turned around and gave him another smackdown, returning his brain to factory settings. Street Fighter KO meme. After school, he returned to his dorm, but since they didn't serve dinner, he found himself in front of the supermarket again. While he recalled the warning of his senpai, Hannah suddenly appeared behind him, startling him. As they walked through the store together, Sato didn't notice they were being watched by some other patrons. When they crossed paths with the white-haired girl, she reminded Sato of the warning she gave him earlier, but suddenly, Sato and Hannah noticed an employee place half-price stickers on the remaining bento. Sato immediately rushed towards them, thanking his stars that he wasn't going to sleep hungry. Unfortunately, he didn't make it to the stand and suddenly found himself lying on the floor with blood gushing from his head. However, that was enough to jog his memory and finally recall what happened the previous day. He'd gone to the supermarket because he was hungry, but when he tried to pick up a bento, he became an unwilling participant in WWE Monday Night Raw. The next moment, he was forcefully woke from his dream by a bucket of cold water. The employee who dumped the water on him explained he was in the employee break room and asked him to take Hannah home when she woke up. Sato was still confused about how he got there, so the man explained he got his ass beat during the mad dash for the half-price bento. He then advised Sato to always go for the full-price bento if he wants to make it back home alive. Sato asked if the other patrons were some sort of gladiators since they turned the store into a coliseum just for some silly bento. To his surprise, the man was triggered and nearly punched him but stopped. He warned him not to let the other wolves hear him say that, unless he wants to die. When he turned to leave, he told Sato that the store was the hunting ground for the girl known as Ice Witch, but he kept quiet as the man walked away and Hannah woke up. The next day at school, Ume approached him again and asked what his relationship with Hannah was. That evening, Sato and Hannah went back to the store, and this time around he was determined to get a bento. As soon as the employee stepped away from the bento, Sato watched as patrons turned into savages, each refusing to let dinner slip away again. He rushed into the battle as Hannah cheered him on from the sidelines, and he was doing okay at first, but when he was almost taken out by a tag team, the Ice Witch saved him. He was surprised to learn his senpai is the legendary Ice Witch, and he watched in awe as she fucked up everyone around. When he eventually tried to grab a bento, he got his ass beat again, and as he laid on the floor, the girl told him it was normal for weaklings to get mollywopped. However, she asked him to come to her club room the next morning if he wished to learn how to survive in the bento jungle. The next day, Sato stood in front of the club room but hesitated because he heard some pervy sounds from inside. When he opened the door, he didn't find the ecchi scene he was looking for but found Hannah lying on the table, while the Ice Witch stepped on her back. The girl then welcomed him to the Half-Pricers Club and introduced herself as its only member and president, Yurizui.
Ever thought the grocery store would be the setting for an all-out brawl? In Bento, it's less about sales and more about survival. Welcome to the mad, wild world where a discount bento is worth risking it all. Dignity, bones, and sometimes consciousness. Episode 2 of Bento cranks up the heat, both in the microwaves and on the battlefield. The episode starts with our banged-up protagonist, Yo Sato, feeling the aftermath of the previous night's bento battle. If you're wondering why a regular guy like Sato is constantly getting his lights punched out, it's because in this world, half-priced bentos turn people into warriors. After being introduced to this strange underground culture, Sato learns that survival means learning how to fight over food. And not just any food, but discounted bento meals. Sato wakes up in the hospital, a fitting reminder that grocery shopping is a contact sport here. He's joined by his new friend and seasoned brawler, Hana Oshiroi, who's less of a fighter and more of a